Did you know that in the language of God himself, Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue that the Torah was written in, there is a profound secret baked and encoded into the language itself, in two of the most innocent everyday questions that we ask each other to this day, even in modern Hebrew. Once we find out the secret behind this, we are going to learn profound truths about where the soul comes from, why it has to come into this world, and where it's ultimately going, and the secrets of the purpose of creation. So in my Yom Kippur Drasha last week, which you can watch now, it's on the screen, I did briefly touch upon this idea, but now I want to explain it with more detail because it's a very interesting idea, and as I said, it's got a very profound lesson, a very important lesson. I'm also going to tie it to the parasha of Ha'azinu because it goes extremely well with Moshe's song. So there, I brought an idea from Rav Moshe Borger that I heard on Hidabrut in the name of Rav Ephraim Shapiro about what the word ani, the first person I in Hebrew, really means. So Hebrew is a conjugate language. So for example, the word beni, my son, is a conjugation of haben sheli, the son that is mine. So ani, Rav Shapiro says, is also a conjugate of ha'an sheli, the an that is mine. So in Hebrew we say lana taholech, where are you going? It's a very normal question, but have you ever noticed that it literally translates as you are going to an? Same with where are you from? Me'ainata literally translates as you are from ayin. What does it mean? So I brought an interesting Kabbalistic source from Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe, where he defines an and ayin as references to paradise, to Gan Eden, to the Garden of Eden. So an is the lower Gan Eden, and that's where we're going. Ayin is a reference to the highest Gan Eden, the highest spiritual realm, where we're from. So I asked, why are we sent from this high Gan Eden, which is so lofty it's called ayin, which means nothing because we can't even grasp it, we can't even imagine it, it's so lofty and so sublime. And then we're sent down here to earth, and from here we get to progress to the lowest Gan Eden, an. So I really want to go more into this now. The truth is that the question is much stronger than that. When we come down here to this world, we're able to make mistakes. This is a world of free will and temptation. Worse, we can end up sinning, chas v'shalom. And then the door is open to another destination, Gehinnom, Chalila. It says even the best of us go to Gehinnom, so it's a very realistic possibility. And why is that bad? Well, Chazal teach us that 1 hour of Gehinnom is more painful than all the suffering in the world, even the entire suffering of Eov. Right? My Rosh Hashiva once had an operation, I think it was his tonsils or something. It's supposed to be the most painful operation a person can go through. And he said that when he was in the depth of the pain, he decided then and there that he can never sin again. I mean, he really did become a Tzaddik. Why? Because he said, if Gehinnom is worse than this, then I'm definitely not going. He was an absolute angel of a man. He's finished Shas dozens of times and just had the best midot ever. So we should be inspired how important Torah mitzvah are just from this alone. But still, moving on. As the Chida says, we have fallen from a shoot of a root of the pillars of heavens, and now we're down here with Gehinnom at our back door. Is that worth it? Well, Chazal teach us that yes, it is worth it. They do so by the story of Elisha ben Avuya. He was the Tana who read some Greek philosophy, then he went into the Pardes and he became a heretic. After he passed away and he was buried, his grave was smoldering and smoking. And they said that that's because he was burning in Gehinnom. And we know from the Gemara that he was refused Teshuva. He was never allowed to go to Gan Eden forever. His student, Rabbi Meir, prayed for him. And then many decades later, when Rabbi Meir passed away, the smoke finally stopped. And it was declared that Elisha ben Avuya had been granted entry into the lower Gan Eden. So the Gemara then asks, was it worth it? And it says, yes, it was. Now, remember, we're not talking about 1 hour of Gehinnom, which is worse than all the suffering in the world. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of hours, decades, right? Still, it was worth it. Why? Because of how great Gan Eden is. Even the lowest Gan Eden. Now, we still have to answer why we come from the highest Gan Eden only to achieve potentially the lowest Gan Eden. So the answer is from our Mishnah. 1 hour of Teshuva and good deeds in this life, in Olam Hazeh, is better than all the life of the world to come. Right? 1 hour of Teshuva and good deeds is better than an eternity of sitting in the highest Gan Eden, right? Which is what we did before we came into this world. says in the Zohar that when the soul is asked to come down into this world, it protests. And Hashem basically says, tough luck, the only reason I created you is so that you would go down into that world. And the Orach Hama says there, in that Zohar Mishpatim, that this shows that coming down into this world is not only for the sake of reward, it's also for the sake of doing something for Hashem. That means Teshuva and good deeds are something that we do for Hashem, and what that builds is what I'm going to discuss now. So the real question is, why? What has putting on leather boxes and refraining from eating lobster and doing some al-chetz and all that got to do with giving us an Olam Haba that is better than even the highest Gan Eden? So the answer is what David said, L'kol tichla ra'iti kate, rachava mitzvotecha me'od. To every perfection and purpose I saw a limit, I saw an end. But your mitzvah, Hashem, is exceedingly broad. Now, what David is saying is that Hashem, in his goodness, did create infinite levels of pleasure and delight and reward. In fact, this whole two Gan Eden system, lower and higher, is just a placeholder for the fact that there's an infinite number of Gan Edens. Each one itself is infinitely higher than the one before it. We are going to be ascending through all of them for all eternity. As it says, the Tzaddikim have no rest in this life or the next. They go mechayel el chayel. Now, the difference between each one, like I said, is infinite. It's like the difference between earth and the lower Gan Eden, literally the difference between heaven and earth. And so we're taught that in order to progress from one to the other, we need to go through a process that's similar to Gehinnom, called the Dinur, which is the sweat, the holy sweat that is produced by the extreme love and fear produced by the Chayot HaKodesh around Hashem's holy throne. It's a river that flows, and we pass through it, and what it does is it makes us completely forget about all the pleasures of the world before, just like Gehinnom does. We have to let go of the lower level, because it's nothing in comparison to the high level, and it will act as a distraction, just like, foreign thoughts during tefillah. So we have to completely and utterly nullify any relationship we have with one Gan Eden in order to proceed to the next. And that is what the river is for. And then we pass through the pillars I was talking about up to the next level, and then we go on and on and on for all eternity. Nonetheless, to all perfection I have seen a limit, says David. We can continue climbing up and up through Hashem's goodness for all eternity, but even infinity can have a limit. Why? Even if we climb to the top of this infinite ladder, and we get to the top somehow, we still won't reach Hashem. Hashem, who is the ultimate good, is beyond even infinity, right? He created infinity. It's his plaything. It's nothing to him. Now, I'm sure you find this all very interesting. It's very esoteric and it's very fascinating. However, how can we make this lesson relatable and down to earth? The problem is actually extremely relatable. In fact, it's something you can only learn on earth. The angels can't understand the message in this lesson. Only we can, and that's why, in part, we come down here to learn this lesson. The problem is like this. Everybody knows that the truest relationships are not ones that are based on things, on goodies, on what you can get from the other. If you find out that your friend only enjoys being with you because you have a swimming pool or you enjoy the same activities, right? You say, rightly, everybody knows this, that that's not a true friendship. The moment that you really need them, they won't be there. The moment you lose the pool, they're gone. The same is true with our relationship with Hashem. Do we really want just to get into his Gan Eden? Is that all we're here for? Are we manipulating him? Or are we in it just for the infinite good that he has in store for us? Or do we want him? That's Teshuva and that's Mitzvot. Mitzvot are exceedingly broad, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. What about Teshuva? As we said in that Yom Kippur drasha, Teshuva touches Hashem on his level of Anochi, I, his first person. And that means it's relevant to him. When we do Teshuva, we are not connecting to the things about him, like his Gan Edens, we are connecting to him. Like we said, Teshuva is the closest we can get to his essence. The pasuk itself says it. Ki ha-mitzvah hazot, which Chazal say is Teshuva, this mitzvah, asher anochi mitzvah which I command you today. I. Moshe wanted to see Hashem's essence, and he showed him the essence of Teshuva. The Yud Gimel Mukmint Rachamim. You can go and see that drasha now. So the point is this. When we come to Olam Hazeh, here we can do the one thing that even the loftiest heavens cannot achieve for us. We can exercise our free will to cleave to Hashem himself. Through Teshuva and Mitzvot, we get to choose Hashem himself, and we get to say to him, I am not your friend because of your Gan Edens and Olam Habas. I want to be your friend because of you, Hashem. This is called Ahava Rabbah in Chassidut. And this works in part because, and I have to give a whole drasha about mitzvot, but in brief, mitzvot are not a creation. Mitzvot are the ultimate and true free will expressions of who Hashem really is, what he really likes. And therefore, when we do mitzvot, we're doing something for him. We're getting a chance to not just be served and looked after by him and get all his goodies. We get a chance to show that, no, we want to do something for you, Hashem. And that is the greatest testament that we're in it for you and not your reward. Okay? If you would like to know more about this concept of how deeply important and meaningful mitzvot are to Hashem, essentially beyond the entire creation, in his very essence, then subscribe. I'm going to be making drashot on it because it's extremely deep, beautiful, and profound idea. The mitzvot are what he wants. They are not a means to an end, and that's what makes them so special. It's beautiful. But in the meantime, let's go back to how we started. Elul, which is the month of Teshuva that leads into Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is an acronym for the verse in Shir HaShirim, Ani Lododi V'Dodi Li. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. A very romantic statement, saying exactly what we're saying. I am for you, right? Not the things about you. But now we can see it even closer. If we take the Ani and expand it, Ha'an Sheli Ledodi. My An is for him, it's for Hashem's Anochi. I want my Gan Eden, my reward, to be you, Hashem. You are my reward. You are my Gan Eden. And then what does Hashem say? V'halachti b'tochachem v'hayiti lachem lelohim v'atem tiyu li la'am. I will walk among you, and I will be your God, and you will be my people. We will be each other's. Ani ledodi v'dodi li. He repeats that again later in the same parak, by the way. I will walk among you. What does Rashi say? I will walk as one of you in Gan Eden, and you will not tremble before me. Because now we had a chance to do mitzvot for him, and we won't have the dread of shame anymore, and we will feel comfortable in a true friendship where we got to prove to him that we're doing it authentically for him and not for the Gan Eden. And so therefore there will be no shame, there'll be no trembling. Our Gan Eden will be with Hashem, because that's all we want. We just want to be with him. We will truly feel comfortable with him and be able to have a true, genuine, authentic relationship with him, as well as each other, by the way, because don't forget, we are just as committed to each other through Torah, Mitzvot, and Teshuva as we are to him, right? Moshe starts the song by calling heaven and earth as his witness, and then he says, we were in the highest Gan Eden, that's heaven. But when we were there, we were in the mode of standards, nitzavim. We were stuck. We were enjoying Hashem's goodness, but we had no way to say to him and prove to him that truly it's him that we want and not just the goodness and the shefa that he was sustaining us with for all eternity. So Hashem sends us down to earth, and on earth that goodness is hidden, and instead it's replaced with trials and tribulations, and that makes it possible to prove that we choose Hashem freely, despite our Yetzer Hara, with real free will. Then, when we return to Gan Eden, we won't return as nitzavim anymore, but mehalchim, the Rebbe says, walkers. Why? Because Hashem is going to be walking with us. And then we will progress through the Gan Edens, but we'll be able to reach higher than before. Because even though those infinite steps have a limit, with Hashem, there's no more limits. Every single step will be beyond infinity, and we will get all the way to Hashem himself in a true relationship of real oneness and intimacy, and enjoy it all with him like an adventure of epic proportions, of godly proportions. And that's what the heaven and earth have been called to witness. They are witnessing that our connection to Hashem and each other is real and true and everlasting and authentic. It was never about Gan Eden or the reward. So I want to finish with this. We've had a tragedy in the Jewish community of Manchester recently. And nobody has an answer. Nobody should try to answer why we go through this. We don't want an answer, we just want them back. Still, we can at least have something to hold on to. And that is, what we're doing is important. Learning Torah teaches us just how important being here is. My wife was recently reading Rav Beryl Wein RabbiYehoshuaSimons' books on history, and she was going through just how excruciatingly difficult the Jewish people have had it. We've gone through Gehinnom for thousands of years, unimaginable suffering. And it was right around Yom Kippur when she said that. So I said to her, I like to think of it like this. That's already in the past now. We've got it in the bag. What does that mean? Well, think about Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day of affliction. We afflict ourselves, and it's difficult. Not eating for 25 hours is hard for quite a lot of people. Especially when I was younger, I used to find it really hard. And so the day is in some ways marred with a bit of dread, a bit of looking at the clock, a bit of, can I make it? Am I going to make it? How hard is it going to be? Is this going to work? Also, you get very nervous. Am I going to be able to do Teshuva? It's a very important day. A lot of suffering. Joyful suffering, but suffering nonetheless. And then, Lefum Sar Agra, it finally comes at the end. It's over. You've done it. All that suffering was for Hashem, but now you succeeded. You made it. And it's the other end now. And it's only now to your credit. You can look back with simcha and joy, all the joy of it that was there, because Yom Kippur is the most joyous day of the year, comes out. So now we can look back at our excruciating history and realize that like all of the biggest, worst prophecies, like Zechariah, Micha, they're all done now. The Holocaust, October 7th, it's all over now, right? May it be over. I know there was another tragedy. May it be the last one. It's so nearly over. We've got all of this now to our credit. She was saying, yes, if you look at what Rebel Rhyme writes, just look at what the Jews did after each tragedy. It's remarkable. It's superhuman how they turned it into good every single time. I leave that to you, the viewer, to go and study what the Jewish people have done in response to tragedy. It's a lesson for all humanity. We never became the victims. So the Abta Rav says that this exile that we're in, this really dark exile, is for a purpose. And the purpose is what we've been saying. Hashem wants us in the darkest of places, because in the darkest of places we have the strongest free will. We chose to be here. I've said that in other videos. We chose to be here for Him. We wanted to come to this darkest of exiles because here we could scream the loudest that we choose you, Hashem, not the things about you. And we stick together, we choose each other, not the things about each other. So hopefully this is a bit of insight, something to hold on to in what we're building. A real, lasting relationship with each other and with Hashem, who's going to bring back everybody very, very soon. And it's going to be better than all the goodness, all the Gan Edens combined, being together, having each other. All we need to do is just wait a bit longer. Kol Dodi Tefek, Hashem is knocking at the door. Let's get through these Yomim Tovim with simcha, with optimism, with unity, with joy, and keep going just that little bit longer. Double and redouble our mitzvahs and our Torah and our Teshuva and our Tefillah while we can, because Hashem's coming. Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. Shabbat shalom and besorot tova.